My name is Erik Proulx. Normally, after you say, my name is Erik Proulx, you follow that with, and I am. I don't really know what I am. Normally, you say, hi, I am, my name is, and then you follow that up with, I do blank. In the last 3 years, I've made a film called Lemonade, which I'll show you a little bit of in a couple minutes. I followed that up with a film about the reinvention of Detroit, called Lemonade Detroit, which I'll also show you. Detroit the D! After making Lemonade Detroit, I have since been directing commercials and writing a blog called Please Feed the Animals. And I also just got invited to start blogging for the Huffington Post about a special Detroit section, which I'm sort of flattered and honored about. But none of this stuff really is like an elevator speech, right? I mean, you can't just say all that when somebody says, what do you do? There's really no like one line for what I do or one topic or one title. And I'm psyched about that. It's all because I lost my job in 2008. And it was the sort of the best fortune I could have asked for, both in my life and in my career. Before I get too deeply into what I'm up to these days, I wanted to talk to you about where I sort of came from. That's me, 1993, University of New Hampshire. Go Wildcats. I'm really hungover in that shot. I graduated with an English degree, and I didn't have a freaking clue about what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I liked to write. I knew that I sort of was in this sort of creative space, but I didn't give myself permission to be creative. I didn't think I could do that for a living. I was temping, and I was sitting on my couch. I was really good at sitting on my couch and watching sports. And I was doing that in my little North End apartment in Boston when a commercial came up for the United Way. This is a still shot from that commercial. It was 30 seconds of just absolute poetry. It literally brought a tear to my eye, and it was beautiful. The score, the cinematography, the writing was just amazing, and it dawned on me that, oh my God, somebody had to write that. And that's what I want to do for a living. It just struck me. I spent the next decade going from city to city, agency to agency, trying to do work that connected with people the same way that that commercial connected with me. After a couple of jobs, like in San Diego and Boston, I threw my portfolio away and went to Atlanta to go back to school, and then I went back to Boston for a job, and then back and forth to Atlanta a couple times, and then the whole 9/11 and 2001 .com crash meant that my agency closed in Boston, so I went to Cleveland to freelance, and they offered me a job. Stayed there for a couple of years and had kids, and went to New York to get back closer to Boston, and then from New York, we had another kid, and then I went back to Boston, finally, to work for Arnold. And if you're from New England and you live in Boston, it's sort of, to me, this was like I had arrived, right? I'm finally at an agency that's doing the kind of work that I know that I want to do. In fact, that United Way commercial was done at Arnold. I felt like, all right, here I am. Let's do this. I got hired to work on Fidelity, which, you know, is a fairly small playground to do emotional work in. But you know, the opportunity was there. There's been great financial work in the past. After 2 months of working on Fidelity, Fidelity decided they were going to take their business in-house, which left me as a senior copywriter at Arnold with no client to pay my salary, which by default puts you on the new business team, right? You get nobody, you're like, well, help try to win us business since you're not making us any money. And so they put me on the team that was pitching Volvo. And, you know, Arnold had done all this great work for Volkswagen like 2 years earlier. They were really hungry to get back into the automobile space. And, you know, they put me on this pitch with 10 other teams trying to win this business. And it went on for months and months and late nights and weekends, and I barely saw my family. But wouldn't you know it, an idea that I came up with for Volvo during the pitch ended up winning the business. I'm going to actually show you the commercial, but just to sort of see my storytelling career, where it started. Here it is.
The wheels on the car go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the car go round and round all through the town. The power tailgate goes up and down, up and down, up and down. The power tailgate goes up and down, all through the town. The hill descent control goes down, nice and slow, nice and slow. The hill descent control goes nice and slow, all through the town. All together now. There's room in the car for everyone, everyone, everyone. There's room in the car for everyone, all through the town.
Introducing the all-new, all-terrain XC70 from Volvo.
That was me at the sort of height of my advertising career. Sad as that is. I mean, but that sort of represented like, okay, I'm finally doing work that is likable. I'm not embarrassed by that. I want to do more of it, and I started, kicking ass on Volvo for the next year. I'd produced like 15 spots. I had a really excited client. I was the lead writer on one of the major piece of business at Arnold. I actually had my annual review on October 1st of 2008. I had my annual review with my direct boss, who said, "You're doing great. We want to give you a promotion to associate creative director. Yay! We want to give you a $15,000 raise. Yay!" And I'm feeling like this is it. I'm doing it. And I went home and like sort of popped champagne with my wife, and yes. That was October 1st. October 15th, 2 weeks later, this happened.
Phone rang, and it was Chief Creative Officer of the agency. And I just sat there looking at the caller ID, his name. And now this guy's calling me on the day that I know there are layoffs on my floor. Hello? Hey, dude, come down to the office for a sec? Okay. Hung up my phone. I walked by my partner's office and I think I'm going to get laid off.
And I did. I was right. It wasn't my first rodeo. In that sort of going back and forth map that I showed you all over the country, 2 of those moves were the result of layoffs. The first time you're shocked and you can't even believe it. The second time you're like, that sucks, but it's part of the business. By the third time, I was like, I've had enough. All right, I can't do this anymore. So I actually started blogging for other people in the advertising industry, thinking that there's a lot of people who are going through this for the first time. They don't sort of have the wily veterans layoff wisdom that I have. I can also sort of give a safe space for these people to vent and just be themselves and support each other and bitch when they need to and provide advice when they need to. Please Feed the Animals was going to be this venting bitch space. With opposite side of that, encouragement and go get them and hear some advice. But a funny thing happened in that there was so little bitching and there was so little woe is me. I thought I was going to have to talk people off a ledge, but really instead I was inspired. The people who were writing in, the people who were sharing their anecdotes, they were doing things like, "Oh my God, I lost my job, so I'm going to start a coffee roasting business," or I'm going to race motocross, or one email I got was, "I lost my job and changed my gender." And it's all because they had the ability. They no longer felt like they had to be defined by their jobs. They started letting themselves define what job they would do. And I thought, what an awesome idea for a film. It was sort of this sweet spot of, the economy sucked, everybody was getting laid off. There was all these great inspirational stories of people who were doing something with that time instead of just woe is meing it in their apartment with the shades down and a bottle of booze. And you know what? Let's make a film about this. I didn't know how to make a film. I thought maybe 30-second and 60-second commercials would prepare me for the production world of filmmaking, and they are not at all alike. But I didn't know that, and that was awesome that I didn't know that, because I went in with this sort of ignorant confidence, and I started to just, it was interesting. It was sort of confidence combined with beginner's eyes. Like I was confident in that I would learn as I went. And it was, to this day, the most sort of present that I've ever been. I was so in the moment during the production of Lemonade that I felt like this was absolutely, I don't know, divine, meant to be. I was in the flow, whatever sort of energy you want to call it, I was in it. And that felt good. If you're going to take anything away from this time here, it's that, we are so easily defined in cocktail parties and elevator speeches and our titles on our business cards by what we do. It just sort of becomes second nature to say, I'm Erik and I am a. But instead, we should just be and let that define who we are and what we do. But you can't really do that. You can't go to Uncle Moneytree. If you have Uncle Moneytree, please introduce me. I'm trying to get the film produced. But you can't really just decide you're going to go and do it. There's some risk involved. For me personally, while I was making lemonade, I really didn't take any paying gigs. And it's not like I had a huge savings account. I had almost no savings. So I ended up putting a couple of mortgage payments on credit cards, and I cashed out my 401k, and I wouldn't advise doing either of those things. But that was the risk that I assumed. To me, going back to the world where my definition was provided for me, where here, this is your brief, you are a writer on this print ad today. And I didn't have any say in that. I wasn't willing to go do that again. I want to share with you a clip from Lemonade Now that is about the sort of risks that people take when they start doing what they are.
Well, I started working in advertising in 2003, and by 2006, I knew I didn't want to stay in it, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I started looking around, I started exploring different things, and I found yoga.
It seemed to me that I had built my portfolio to a point where I could actually make a living doing freelance. And as time went on, things happened in the business, jobs got further and further apart, and I found myself with a lot of time on my hands. So I started painting very seriously. Probably drew and painted from the time I can remember, you know. It was something that I always loved. It was an escape when I was a kid.
I had him in the back of my head, this whole coffee thing. And, you know, I'd always been a home roaster, and I thought, well, maybe I can do something with this. Can I make this work? What can I do? You know, this machine that I have out here was quite an investment, and so I did the research on which coffee roaster I wanted, and you know, one day I pulled the trigger, bought it, and arrived at the house here. I didn't really have any clients or anything, you know. I just had this $10,000 coffee roaster, and we're like, where are we going to put this thing?
What working on this film has done for me is it gives me a really good reason to get up every day and try to figure out how am I gonna, it's the independent filmmaker thing, you know, how am I gonna pay for this?
Reinvention doesn't just apply to individuals and jobs. It applies across the board to industries, to organizations, it even applies to cities. If your city, like Detroit, is defined by one thing, and you really kind of know it as a car town, they make cars, that's what Detroit is, then how do you sort of reinvent from that? How do you step back and say, okay, we made cars, but that doesn't mean we are a car-making city. That doesn't mean we are cars. It doesn't mean that that's all we do. We're designers, we're manufacturers, we're skilled laborers. We are a bunch of things that we happen to make cars with those skills, but what else can we do? And that's what Lemonade Detroit's all about. Lemonade Detroit is about sort of redefining what you do with your life, with your city, once you don't really have an identity anymore. I'll show you a little clip from that.
You know, we took it on the chin, and in Detroit, we're just kind of hardworking, gritty, pick yourself up and keep working.
The grit that Detroit has, that everybody, I think, talks about is it's kind of like roll up your sleeves and just get it done.
We can be gritty, we can be raw, we can be determined. Detroit has balls. We got the balls.
I mean, quit whining about it, you know, just do it.
All these experts, all these scientists and sociologists and land surveyors. I've been to hundreds of meetings, and it's like, come on, y'all.
It's time to get off your ass and do something.
Last time I saw you, a woman stood on a corner conducting traffic, her own sunken opera, a crack pipe baton, car horns joined in like a bad man cruising a dream. She stood on the corner of Cass and Mac, dying to reach Joy Road. The moon left its spotlight on a backdrop of burnt-out buildings. Police tape posed like velvet rope. Do not cross.
When you see the burned down houses and you see the empty neighborhoods, that's actually an opportunity. That's an opportunity to do something different. That's an opportunity to start all over. When I look at that, I see a blank slate.
The buildings that you see that are empty right now are spaces for new ideas.
You know, it's sometimes like rethinking what's around you, and some people are looking at it as blight. You know, we're looking at it as a possibility.
When we hit rock bottom, you know, I had a meeting in the lunchroom with all the people that were left, and I said, you know, I'm going to give you my word, I promise. We're going to do everything we can to get us out of this and to find other industries.
It just kind of dawned on me about 8 months after I met Mark that we don't need to start from scratch, just take what's here. And Mark is an amazing person in the sense that he saw the same vision that I saw, that we could make jeans here.
So then I meet Joe and we start Motor City Denim brand, which is really exciting, and we've hired people to do the apparel manufacturing for us. We're doing some other custom apparel for other companies now, so that we kind of, you know, once you open your eyes up a little bit and kind of broaden the scope of what it is that you can do, new opportunities just start coming your way.
When you look at all of these people that are left over from the auto industry, engineers, car designers, skilled labor force, they're just looking for another industry to come in. And one of my dreams was to bring garment manufacturing back to Michigan.
We have the manufacturing expertise here. You know, I had designers that were designing our products for the industrial side, and Joe brought with him, you know, a style. He had some star power and knowledge of the industry. The skill sets he brings were the skill sets we were lacking, so it was a perfect fit.
I had a need to stay here and create a denim company, and Mark had a need to diversify. There is no option for me. There is no, it's not going to work for me. We're doing it. It's as simple as that.
Detroit's many stages of reinvention go, you know, well before it was cars. I mean, before it was the Motor City, they made, you know, beer and textiles. You know, then it was cars and music, you know, Motown. It's the birthplace of techno. You know, the middle class started in Detroit with the auto industry. It's been known for all these things, and now it's the sort of redheaded stepchild of cities. You know, now it's, you know, everybody's like, yo, come on, Detroit, you can do it. I think we're going to learn a lot from Detroit. People should be taking notes on what's happening in Detroit because they're going to need it someday. That city is the most inspiring place I've ever been. And if you don't spend time in Detroit, you should. The energy there is unbelievable. And, you know, Dateline doesn't report on that. I know we're not supposed to shill. Rule number 1 of Cusp is don't shill. But I will gently suggest that you go to our Bioframe site, bit.ly/Bioframe. What we're doing is, you know, in every second of film, there are about 24 frames, and over the course of a 90-minute feature-length film, it comes out to 130,000 frames, give or take. We're selling every one of those frames for $1. And we're crowdfunding the crap out of this. We have sold enough so far to make what I showed you. That was about 4 or 5 minutes of a 17-minute short that we finished. And there's almost 2,000 producers. If you buy a frame for $1, you get producer credit. That's on the end of the film and also on IMDb. So we also have broken the record for most producers in a single film, which hopefully I think your names can get in the Guinness as well. Cusp is actually a producer. They bought some frames, so thank you very much for that, Cusp. And you can too, so hopefully you join me in making this film. Lastly, I wanted to leave you with a little bit more about the detail about the ad that got me into advertising and indirectly got me out of it. Picture that girl. I think she's wearing angel's wings, which you can't really see in that shot. But she's walking around the cemetery, and it's shot in black and white. And you know, as she passes these gravestones and this really dramatic, beautiful music in the background, she looks right into camera, and this is what she says. How do you want to be remembered? For the car you drove? As the guy who slid into second with his spikes up? As the woman with the power suit who everyone feared? As the one with the most toys? Or someone who cared? Someone who did some good? Someone who, on the day they're gone, people will say, today, there's a hole in the world. Thank you.